and welcome to Ben Church's online worship service for May the 14th, 2023. Happy Mother's Day. You know, here at Ben Church, we believe that every human being is a child of God. And no matter where you are on your faith journey, you are welcomed and affirmed here at Ben Church. You know, we all come into this world as seeds of potential. Just as mighty oak trees grow from tiny acorns and beautiful butterflies grow from humble caterpillars, each one of us is gifted with unique potential for growth and transformation. Today, as we continue our journey through the Emerge series, we dare to imagine unfolding our wings and claiming our space in this beloved community. You know, once out of the chrysalis, the new butterfly has much to do to prepare for flight. Wings are not ready. They're small and undernourished. They long for expansion to move beyond this awkward in-betweenness. And as we consider our own metamorphosis, we remember how Jesus renamed Simon as Peter, a description of the rock upon which the church would be built. Are we willing to accept that God's possibilities may come in ways that we never imagined, perhaps expanding our notion of who we are in this world?
Once out of the cocoon, the new butterfly has much to do to prepare for flight. Wings are not ready yet. Small and undernourished, they long for expansion, to move beyond this awkward in-betweenness. As we consider our own metamorphosis, we remember how Jesus renamed Simon as Peter, a description of the rock upon which the church would be built. Are we willing to accept that God's possibilities may come in ways that we never imagined, perhaps expanding our notion of who we are in this world? Please stand in body or in spirit for the reading of the gospel and join me first in the prayer for illumination. Holy God, Word made flesh, let us come to this word, open to be surprised. Silence our agendas, banish our assumptions, cast out our casual detachment. We know that you can, we pray that you will, and we wait with great anticipation. From Matthew's Gospel. Now, when Jesus came into the district of Caesarea of Philippi, he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that the Son of Humanity is?" And they said, "Some say John the Baptist, but others Elijah, and still others Jeremiah, or one of the prophets." He said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter answered, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." And Jesus answered him, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my God in heaven. And I tell you, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not prevail against it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom, and whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven." Then he sternly ordered the disciples not to tell anyone that he was the Messiah. Holy wisdom, holy word. Thanks be to God.
Well, hello. It's so good to be with you all this morning. There's a tradition that I don't know that my dad, when we were growing up, we joked about it. I think he would always ask us permission if we were going to be stories in his sermon, but I've heard lately we got the short end of the stick, Dad, because lately I've heard of clergy who pay their children.
Wait a minute.
I know. These kids could have been making it pretty good. So before this morning, I asked my nephew Camden if he wanted to be in the sermon. He said, yeah, but then I'd have to pay him. So we'll see if I can name drop Camden this morning. It's so fun. Have you ever heard yourself say, that's just how it is? Yeah, that's just how it is. What do we mean when we say that? That's just how it is. We're expressing the belief, whether true or not, that a situation or person represents a status quo that is unchangeable. And it usually kind of has a negative vibe, right? We don't say that about a situation thinking like really positive, happy thoughts. That's just how it is. We don't do that. We're kind of disappointed already. Like, that's just how it is. Last month, my family spent time in Ohio for spring break, and we enjoyed a day at the Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio. It included a section on the history of flight and the Wright brothers, for whom did some of their work around Dayton. And did you know that in September of 1904, the Wright brothers reached a significant milestone in researching the mysteries of flight? And after ascending the Huffman Prairie and the Flyer 2, Wilbur turned around and landed his plane near his takeoff spot, making history's first full-circle airplane flight. Now, however, October 1905, 11 months later, the Wrights decided to discontinue their flying experiments until they received a patent on this invention. Smart guys. Though this patent was not issued until May of 1906, the Wrights offered their invention to the U.S. government 2 times in 1905. What do you think happened to their offers? Rejected, ignored, for few people actually believed they had invented a successful flying machine. There were plenty of people who looked to the heavens and thought, people do not fly. That's just how it is. Mass shootings in America. That's just how it is. Underpaid and overwhelmed and overworked employees in every sector. That's just how it is. The world is getting warmer, and there's nothing we can really do. That's just how it is. Yeah, there are churches who tell people that some of them are not made in the image of God. That's just how it is. As people of faith, a different story rises up within us. A story of repair and renewal and rebirth, that every place of hate and evil and apathy always has a pathway out and into beloved community. If people are willing to journey together with imagination and honesty and love, right? Every single situation has a pathway forward. Problem is, I think we bring this, it's just how it is attitude to humans also. So we've got the big life things that sometimes feel really hard to shift and change, and they go incrementally. Today I want to invite us to reflect on how humans change. That's just how they are. I thought of the phrase, boys will be boys. This one's unraveling, isn't it? Like, there's a lot of people unraveling that. Oh, that's just how it is. No more. Is that just how it is? Insert a member of your family. That's just how blank is. Everybody got a name right now? Yeah. That's just how they are. It's just how they are. Do you see how this phrase totally dismisses a gospel truth that is central to who we are? Because what if that's not how it always will be? So let's be honest for a minute. Jen warmed us up. Change is hard. Who actually, is this the first Sunday that section is gone? Who walked in and their body really didn't know what to do? Yeah. You have muscle memory. You sit in your chair, you look at the same direction, and that, oh my gosh, that's real. Change is hard. We get used to how something is, how it feels, how we connect to it. And then a person or a situation or a story changes. And that ripple effect is real. Change isn't simple, especially when it happens to people we love. And our Jesus story today brings us to this conversation between Jesus and his disciples. Jesus has been healing people left and right, and surprised, the religious elite aren't happy about it. And they're testing Jesus. They want signs. They want proof. And instead, Jesus asks his friends, who do you say that I am? Because that's what I actually care about, is who do you say that I am? And so when I read this text, I saw this curious pattern, 3 little parts. The first one is there's a shift from opinion to what is most true to transformation. So the disciples say, this is their opinions. Oh, some say you're John the Baptist, but others say Elijah, Jeremiah, prophets. These are just like the gossip in the lunchroom. This is what people think you are. And then Simon Peter says, what's most true? You're the Messiah. You're the Son of the living God. And then we move to transformation. Jesus blesses Simon, son of Jonah, and names him what? Peter. And on this rock I will build my church. The kingdom of heaven is yours. That is transformation. So Jesus changes Simon's name. Now, maybe Jesus didn't go to the IRS office and officially submit the paperwork, which, by the way, how many of you, especially when you got married, women, got to go change your name? Do you remember the power of realizing you could write anything on that piece of paper that you wanted? There's a Friends Phoebe comment joke that I won't make right now, but sometimes it has a lot of power. And you could change, when you and your own agency could change your name. When I went to my 7th grade middle school registration, I stood in line with my mom and she said, what's going to be your name this year, Jenny? Because I kept changing the spelling of my name every year. I was J-N-Y, then J-N-I, then J-N-I-E. And 7th grade was back to J-N-Y. That was the extent of my rebellion, I guess. Oh. Something really important happened in that moment that his name changed. It's just like when Abram became Abraham, and Sarai became Sarah, and Jacob became Israel, and Saul became Paul. Y'all, those weren't just nicknames that people changed on a whim. Something was happening inside of them, and God knew it. And God was a part of it. Earlier, we pointed out that change can be really difficult, especially when it happens to other people that we love. I'll offer you a few questions for your reflection. How do we make space for the people we love to transform? How do we allow their identity and story to evolve? To be honest, sometimes we're so used to how they are, how they've always been, that there's grief when someone enters a season of growth, especially if they didn't ask our permission. Maybe there's part of our story that's been dependent on their story staying the same. And now we're left spinning because one person's story can now change the stories of everyone around them. Or, let's be real honest, maybe they're not changing the way we want them to change.
Yep.
What do we do with that loss of perceived control? I don't think we had it in the first place. So to be clear, transformation, name changing, is the good news of love in our world, and yet it's so challenging. My daughter is heading to middle school in a few months, and we've talked about this a lot. I'm being invited to wrestle with how my story intertwines with her story. And she knows this. If I'm not careful, my grief could stunt her space to transform. Because instead of sharing how excited I am for her to take up her space, I could be, I wish you were little. And I do that enough. I wish, and I'll look at old photos of, I wish I remembered. Well, what message does she get? Is it not okay for me to take up my space? Is it not okay for me to transform? No. So my work is grief work. Okay, I guess we're all aging. I guess everyone's getting bigger. Okay, how do I feel about that? That's my work. So that the person near me can grow and do the work that she's going to do as a human. Y'all know about our brother Jeremy. Death has this way of pulling the tablecloth out from under the feast and giving a big middle finger to everyone's feelings about it. And yet, as beloved children of God, we are invited to still show up to those hardest stories that start to unfold. And it's been fascinating to watch as each member of our family evolves and transforms in front of our eyes. And it's not always easy to do the work to adapt to their new story. You know, I got used to how my family was before. I knew how to relate to them. But all these new people around me, it's beautiful. Don't get me wrong. And also, what happened? So this is different. And I see God changing their name, so to speak. But still I grieve the family that I once had. The family that could hug Jeremy and laugh with him. And apparently death will continue to be a part of all of our stories in some way. And so I'm grateful that we get to keep making room for the people we love to grow and change, to become more like love. I was listening to a podcast recently by Rob Bell. Some of you know him. You love him. He's a former pastor in Michigan and a prolific author. And he offered this amazing phrase that creates a lot of spaciousness around change and the ways we become new. He was chatting with someone and they mentioned something that Rob had done 5 or 6 years earlier, and he said, that was 13 Robs ago. That was 13 Robs ago. Do you feel that spaciousness? We're allowed to keep changing? I wasn't the person I was 6 months ago or 10 years ago. That was 3 gens ago. Or 14 Daves ago. Or 3 Camdens ago. $5. What? Friends, we are not only allowed to grow and transform and heal, it is our Creator's desire and hope for us. It is the resurrection. It's eyes that see something new. It's a heart that feels cold and closed and somehow starts to become warm and open. It's a body that's tense with fear that slowly learns to trust. It's a relationship that is at an impasse and you see no way out. But you somehow find a new chapter, even if it's a surprising one. It's broken and racist and misogynistic patterns that are truly being seen, that are being brought out from the corners and the shadows and the shame, and there are lights being cast on them, and we are starting to unravel. the patterns. Oh, that was 8 Jennies ago. I love it. So friends, how might we set each other free to release old chapters of our story so that we can more fully step into new ones? And real quick, a word to those of you who find yourself in a situation where the people around you are not honoring your new chapter. Maybe they don't know how. Maybe they're scared. I have some really good news for those of you today. In our sacred Jesus story, it is not those other people who give you a new name. It is God, the one who made you. So know that if you're aching for someone to see the fullness of you in this season and it really hurts, that maybe other people can't quite get there yet, know that God sees you and believes you and knows you. That God has been intimately involved in every detail of how your story has shifted, and that you are not alone. You don't have to wait for everyone else to understand you before you step more fully into this chapter of your story. Maybe it's enough that you and the one who made you know. And I offer this question for you as a church. What does it feel like to say, oh, that was 13 then churches ago? Because your story's shifted. I've heard a few of your stories in our family conversations sometimes. Your story has shifted. I'm pretty good friends with her. I've heard some new stories. Your story is changing. Church, how might you make space for a church community to step into a new chapter? Maybe who you were pre-pandemic is not who you are. And maybe that's the best news ever. So maybe, my beloved friends, that's just how it is has never been true when it comes to the way of Jesus. There is abundant space in this life to stretch out, to explore parts of ourselves and our stories. People can evolve and transform and change. We get to make space for others to do that. To ever so slowly inch toward the beloved community where all humans know their divine worth and our life together reflects the radical love of God. May it be so this day. Amen.
Amen.
Our mission focus for the month of May is the Compassionate Care Ministries here at Bend Church. Compassionate Care seeks to offer direct assistance to those in need here in Central Oregon, whether they need gas for their car or perhaps they need to order a birth certificate. Compassionate Care is here to help them. So know that any dollar you give beyond that is not designated for the church here will go directly to Compassionate Care Ministries. You know, as Christians, we believe that everything we have is a gift from God. We give back to our community in order to share our many blessings and participate in collective liberation. You are invited to give joyfully and generously as you are able. There are 3 ways that you may give here to Bend Church. The first is by using the app Venmo. The second would be to click on the Giving tab on our website to access our online giving with e-offering. Or you may mail a check to our secure mailbox here at the church. Now please join me as we give thanks for the gifts that we will receive this week. We thank you for the ways in which our offerings will support the work of this church in our community, O God. May we always remember that we are better together. Amen.
As the Father has loved me,
so I have loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. I have said these things to you so that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be complete. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. I do not call you servants any longer, because a servant does not know what the master is doing. But I have called you friends, because I have made known to you everything that I have heard from my Father. You did not choose me, but I chose you, and I appointed you to go and bear fruit that will last, so that the Father will give you whatever you ask him in my name. I am giving you these commands so that you may love one another.
Now receive this benediction. Now go into your lives, beginning to spread your wings wide into this present day that is ripe with possibilities. And may the assurance of the God who created you, the Christ who is raising you, and the Spirit that will unleash you be with you now and always. Blessed be, and amen.